this is Maria. Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing some tips on homeschooling preschoolers, expectations that you might want to have, how to improve focus and concentration, and just how to get your kids excited about learning. If you're new to my channel, I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old. At the current time, I'm homeschooling them both, but I also work in the industry of childhood development and education, and I work with pediatric therapy place. I work at the Montessori school, so I have a lot of visibility into the techniques that people in those establishments are using. So today's video is just going to give you some ideas and tips. On my channel, I largely focus on activities for children, Montessori approach, open-ended toys, and also mommy-related content such as routines, day in the lives, and all that. I also have my Instagram page where I share different content, and I just redid this whole creative area and I shared it there with you. So go ahead and follow me there, subscribe to my channel. That's the kind of content you're looking for, and let's get started. So the very first thing that I wanted to talk about is that you have to set the right expectations when you're working with young children. You have to understand that they're little and their learning needs to be fun. In many of my videos, I always talk about the environment, so I'm not going to spend much time on that. You can go back to some of my videos, which I will link at the end of this video and in the description. But the very first thing, I have 2 kids, both of them are very, very different. So setting up the correct expectations and meeting where they are at, more of a follow of your child perspective works at home great. They're not in a classroom setting, so you need to understand your child's strengths and weaknesses. When you're presenting your child any kind of lesson, whether it's numbers, letters, shapes, you need to make it fun and relatable to them. And if there is an aversion to learning that subject, there might be a few reasons for it. First of all, it might be too easy, so this child is getting really easily bored with it. It might be so difficult that they do not understand even the concept. In that case, you always need to present the material that has an appropriate amount of challenge. So you have to build up on your lessons. If you're starting with your toddler and you need to make sure where they are at, especially if you're just starting doing it and you haven't done homeschool before. So go and sit down and make sure that they are understanding the numbers, right? It's not just the road counting where they are, I think it's called map counting, where they just go from 1 to 10. How many objects are they able to actually count? And then go from there. If they're able to do one-to-one correspondence only for 3 objects, well, that's your baseline. So understand your child's baseline. Now that you know the baseline of your child, make it relatable to them. As an example, for Justin, I've always used, for both my children, I've always used the materials that speak to them. Because if they don't see the connection of what they're learning with their interests, they're kids. They are not supposed, especially young kids, if you have a preschooler. So try using the materials that excite them, whether it's cars, whether it's dinosaurs for little boys, if that's what they're into. Maybe it's cupcakes for little girls. Maybe it's something pretty. So making it relatable is one part of the battle. Another thing to keep in mind, the children are actually capable of having the attention span of about 20 minutes. It's actually even true for elementary age children. So if you're daunting them with activity after activity, they will get tired, their brain will shut down, and there will be no good progress seen out of it. So when you plan your activities, think about it and make them shorter, more intense, and then give your child a brain break. There's lots of studies for it that prove, and I've seen with my kids that especially certain activities will be more challenging than others. So having a brain break with physical movement incorporated in it helps a lot. As an example, if you have a child and you're doing the counting activity and it's like you are hitting the wall. For example, when we do team board with Scarlett, team board is a Montessori activity where you already know your 10 and then you go 11, 12, 13. So it's a very challenging and long process. It takes way longer than 20 minutes. What we usually do is somewhere in the middle. When I see her getting tired, I let her stand up and we jump and clap and we count out till 20 as we are jumping. So introducing the movement is a very big part in working with young children. Another example, if you're trying to get your child to spell their name and remember the order of the letters, again, with my daughter Scarlett, she has 2 T's at the end, it's a very long name. So we usually hop and clap, or we, run around the room and we yell out her letters. Now that's something I've seen done in a therapy place, because a lot of the times, again, young children aren't meant to sit still. We aren't as creatures not meant to sit still. And you will see right now, and I think I've talked it in one of my videos, that they're introducing wiggly chairs in the classrooms. They're introducing wiggly chairs into the workspaces. We as people require movement for learning, so, and it especially is true for young kids. Another big part to think about when you're introducing any of those materials or activities to your children, have concrete materials on hand. That's one of the reasons why I personally always love the Montessori approach, and I feel like it works really well for children because they work with something that can tangibly touch. Abstract concepts don't really sink in well with children of preschool age. It's not developmentally appropriate, and again, that's based on the information from the people that work with kids all day long. So having something they can touch and feel, and also making it relatable to everyday objects. For example, you're learning geometrical shapes. I did this this morning with Justin, and we were looking at cylinder, right? Well, cylinder is anywhere. Cylinder is a column. We have a kaleidoscope is a cylinder. There is part of the block, the column is a cylinder. A hat can be a cylinder. Then a sphere, well, it's a ball. A cone, a pyramid. So you can make all of those things relatable for children. When you go for a walk, call out the shapes that you see around you. If you're doing the letters, that's something actually that came from the kids' school, especially letter sounds. You do letter, let's say this is letter E. Let's find the objects around the house that start with the sound E. Oh, it's an egg, an elephant, and you go through multiple things to make it more exciting and interesting, bringing play into their learning. Another thing, if you see that the activity is too challenging for your child, try to break it down. Sometimes there could be visual component that is part of them learning. As an example, we actually had a bit of it when Scarlett was little. She was a toddler. She knew all of her colors, but if I would dump the entire bucket of different color bears and ask her to sort it, she would have a trouble with it. What I started doing after the certain conversations, I pull away and I would leave just 2 colors, and we would start building up on it. But first we'll do 2 colors, and we would do 3 colors, and we would do 4 colors. Build up on your activities. Don't go full on, because if it is too challenging, your child will be bored and very discouraged from the work. So watch them and step back, simplify it, maybe break it down in smaller steps and introduce them. I've already mentioned follow your child concept that comes from Montessori. Another Montessori concept that I believe is very true, just by watching both of my children who are very different, is a sensitive period. So sensitive period is when your child is really engrossed in learning something, and all they do and all they want to do is to practice it. As an example, when Scarlett was 2, all she wanted to do was to string the beads, make necklaces. That was something she was really into, play jewelry, and she was also really into making it. Well, it is also a sensitive period for that age of the child to develop their pincer grasp. And it's amazing when you start researching those things, how many things from our hand are connected to our brain in our development. So watching for your child, a lot of the kids between like right at the 4 to 5, that kind of mark, pre-readers, they are about to start reading, so they're actually really interested in learning letters. And a lot of the times when your child is really focused on learning something else will give. They say the same, right? When the child is about to start walking, they might not be as focused on starting to talk. So a lot of the times, one of those big skills that they're mastering can overshadow the others. Be sensitive to it and feed into it. Again, when we were about, I would say 3.5, Scarlett was really into learning how to write her name, how to form the letters and stuff like that. So that's what we worked on mainly. If you have more than 1 child on hand in the current situation, work in groups. That helps me a lot. And it actually is part of Montessori concept. But if you think about it, even in a traditional classroom, there will be kids that are about a year apart just because of the cut-off date. So they will be on totally different levels of developmental development. So you can introduce the same lesson to the children that have, the difference of 2 to 3 years easily. You will have to modify it, and it will be very beneficial to the younger child. In that case, because the older child will be taking on the leadership role. It is also a Montessori principle, but at the same time, you don't have to think about how you're going to entertain 2 children or access 2 children at the same time with different works, especially in a homeschool environment. So a lot of the times, if I am doing numbers work where Justin is sitting right there. Now, how do you encourage a younger child to sit still is a different part. Whatever your reasons for homeschooling are, establishing the homeschool routine is one of the biggest parts that will help you be successful in the process. Because when we just started homeschooling for the kids, it was kind of hard to distinguish me being a teacher and me being a mom. And you kind of have to draw that line and give them understanding. This is the time we're learning. That's what happens during this time. You will have your breaks, but once we're done, there is playtime. So they say that routines are very important with young children, and that is absolutely true. That's why I like filming routines on my channel as well, because once you establish it and you stick to it, your everyday life becomes so much easier. And especially with younger children, toddlers and like early preschoolers respond to routines the best. With Justin, who's only 3, him and I did not really have this one-on-one learning time together up until now. Scarlett and I always had it because I always supported her schoolwork. When she would come home, we would sit down and I pulled her out of full-time school and kept her there only for half day because I missed her so much. And I didn't want her to miss out on learning experience. So her and I have a history of me being a teacher and her being a learner. Where Justin and I, because he was so young and also so bright, I've never actually put much effort into it. So when homeschool came about, I had to establish the routine and the relationship with him. Once the routine is established, you will notice that it's much easier to be a teacher in your kids' eyes. And I also start my lessons the same way. So there is an expectation. Okay, it's 8:30, we're sitting down, we're doing our calendar. That's a sign for the kids that the work is starting. I hope this video was helpful for you guys and you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to give me a like. If you love this kind of content, subscribe to my channel, follow me on other social media platforms, and I will see you soon.